Good morning, everybody. It is Monday. It is DCA Live. And as usual, guess what's happening? Get your props, ladies and gentlemen. The DCA pump is happening, and we brought all our pumps because people have been asking for the pumps. And Mando's a bit late in this pump.
I didn't bring a pump. I'm sorry.
Yeah, next time. But things are kind of crazy. The question is, are we back? Could October still be October? Let's get into a whole bunch of data, money flows, macro. We'll look at some altcoins, talk about altcoin season, talk about how strategies are changing, and so much more. We've got 17 agenda items. That means we have 3.5 minutes per topic. You guys ready to go?
Let's go.
Ready.
Yeah.
Ready.
And don't forget, everybody, to subscribe to the channels that are linked below in this video. And they're also streaming on their own channels as well. We've got CTO Larson, we've got Rect Mendo, and Marty Party. And they are everywhere all the time. And the show is about uncovering alpha. And we'll talk about some of that too, of all the stuff we've been talking about over the last couple of months. And yes, markets are volatile, but let's get into it. The question, first of all, is will Bitcoin surge? And one of the things that's happening behind the scenes, this is from Crypto Rover, and this is also from Crypto Quant, is the Bitcoin realized cap for new whales that are less than 155 days old is surging dramatically. And typically in previous cycles, that's a very, very, very bullish sign for the market. So I'm going to kick this to Mando first. Are you looking at on-chain new whale data? And I know the ETFs are a big part of this as well, but this is also extremely similar to what happened in 2020 at exactly this stage of the cycle. Thoughts?
Yeah, we spoke about this maybe a few weeks ago, in that the actual number of Bitcoin holders is going down, particularly on exchanges, but the number of whale buyers is going up. So what we're generally seeing actually is Bitcoin moving more and more into bigger holders' hands. Obviously, a big part of it is the ETF, but I also think this is starting to attract, I would say, the top tiers of society, like billionaires who are coming in and buying big bags, same as institutions that are coming in and buying big bags, just because I think Bitcoin is being sold more and more as a hedge against the world blowing up, and less potentially as a payments network. And for that reason, I think this really appeals to some of the larger billionaire class, as well as some big institutions or financial institutions which are looking to hedge away from, let's say, gold or other, let's say, defensive assets. So I think we'll continue to see this, if I'm honest. I think we'll continue to see big whale buyers coming in and potentially fewer smaller holders of Bitcoin.
So does that mean, normally the retail investor comes at the later stage of the market after everything is already on the moon and they're always too late? Does that mean we could just bypass retail altogether? Retail maybe considered priced out if Bitcoin goes above 70,000 again and say, oh, well, I need to buy one and it's too expensive. I don't know 70,000. What is the mentality you see here for the retail investor today?
I think it more speaks to the way that people are buying it. So often they're buying it. I mean, I was out for dinner yesterday and I overheard somebody say, I can now buy Bitcoin on through my bank. So I'm going to buy 25% Bitcoin, 25% gold, and 25% real estate and 25% stocks. This tells you that the institutions are buying the Bitcoin for you. So what you're really seeing is it being sold to retail, but via institutions. So the ETF will be the holder, but you'll have hundreds, thousands of different holders off the back of that. And I think that's what you'll see as well as other big financial institutions come in to buy. So I think partly this is just to do with how the nature of the buyer, that they then disseminate it to retail holders afterwards.
So maybe retail is already in the game. I did see some old wallets move to the ETF. I'm almost sure of it back in March when it launched. But any thoughts on this, CTO, on whale movements?
Yeah, the great thing with technology is that retail has usually beaten Wall Street. That's the great thing. If you look at like traditional markets, that's not the case. Retail always comes last. But if you look at the big moves in technology, the big movers in technology, it has actually been that for a long time. Retail actually has a chance because the traditional financial players, they didn't understand technology, and arguably I don't think they still do. So look at Bitcoin here. It's been like a bunch of amateurs, programmers, nerds like myself and so on who have been talking about this, and all the big responsible, bankers and financial players have said it's some kind of scams that those nerds are dealing with. And look now what is happening. Like so many years later, they're actually coming. And it has been like that. I mean, James, no one knows better than you will say Tesla or something that everyone wrote off, like Elon Musk he doesn't understand anything. His company will go bankrupt. It's all a scam. But retail was early on Tesla. And now look what has happened. And it actually, as if you study the history, it frequently is that with technology. And that's why I love this field so much, because you actually have a chance as a amateur retail analyst. You can understand something about technology because Wall Street often doesn't get it until much later. So I think they're just catching up now, as it usually is, and it feels great.
Yes, and shout out to all the retail investors in the audience who are looking for their little path to outrun Wall Street. Now, it looks like Wall Street is just going backwards. As every year goes by, they seem to be less and less informed, and I have no idea why. They invest around weird principles that make no sense, which you won't get into, like, well, ESG, etc. But anyway, Marty, what do you think of this, and what do you think of this? Bitcoin price since 2011. We are higher in nominal terms, not in real terms, of course, if you whip out 40% debasement since 2020. But that being said, it's still not too bad so far in October.
Yeah, I saw a great chart of the S&P versus Bitcoin with inflation priced in, and it's quite frightening. Bitcoin is far outseeded all other assets this year, especially. Unbelievable. But back to the previous point, I think we're in reaccumulation. Reaccumulation Wyckoff is basically what happens is the whales suppress the price, and it's an arms race. They buy as much as they can, and I don't think you'll see retail get involved until you see TV commercials again and things like that, and when they'll distribute that Bitcoin back to retail at a profit. So the large buyers are buying to redistribute later, and that's what the bull run is. And I think we're seeing it played out to perfection right now. Also, you saw the BlackRock presentation in Brazil on Friday. And their first slide, Bitcoin, risk off. I think that stimulated the market today. A lot of institutional buyers that weren't in Bitcoin, and they see that they're waiting to hear that. And also they said all crypto is risk on. But anyway, that's another question. But I think the combination is what we're seeing. We're seeing the playing out of the Wyckoff reaccumulation phase, and the whales have doubled down.
Yeah, we'll get to the Wyckoff in a few minutes. Maybe you could pull up one of your latest Wyckoff charts. But I do want to talk about BlackRock, because all the Bitcoin maxis were very excited last week about the roadshow from BlackRock. They manage $11 trillion in assets. They have reach to very, very deep pockets. And they are basically telling everybody, allocate to this thing all over the world at the same time. And that's pretty compelling. That's pretty revolutionary. But let's talk about one more thing. Topic number 3 out of 17. We're going to talk about funding rates. Mando, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Are negative funding rates bullish? This is in your Mando minutes from this morning or yesterday. I don't remember. But, there's different ways that this can be construed. First of all, the simple way to think about funding rates is if you, for the people out there, short positions are paying long positions to be in a position. And that can lead up to a big short squeeze. That's the simple thing. Other people believe a negative funding rate suggests that more traders are holding short positions, which is bearish. So, the question is, what is it, bullish or bearish?
I would say that, it just says that we probably have a bit more to go in the rally, in my opinion. What it's telling you right now is if you're bullish, it's a bit more balanced. There's clearly shorts being put in the market right now. And therefore, you can generally get a short squeeze. So on positive pieces of information, you can get these big gaps up. I think in general, funding has come down in the market. We are close to all-time highs. Back in January, when we were at this sort of level, or February, funding was sometimes over 100% for some of these majors. It was nearly at 200% for some of the altcoins. Now it's probably 10, 20%. Part of that is what Athena's been doing. So it's been doing this basis trade that we've spoken about before. That's become a very popular trade in crypto, particularly for hedge funds, since the arrival of the ETFs. The idea of buying spot and shorting futures. So that trade has grown, and therefore these funding rates generally have come down. But this does tell me that we can keep on going a decent amount higher. When I saw this morning, it made me feel like we can go towards all-time highs, and it wouldn't feel stretched.
Yeah. In fact, Marty, if you look at the funding rates for SUI, it can be quite negative as well. Could that be playing out as a short squeeze right now with the SUI action hitting 210 a few minutes ago?
Absolutely. I think they're two, like the Federal Reserve, the major exchanges have a few tools at their disposal, and funding rates is very powerful. But turning shorts into longs is how they stimulate the price to go up. And you're seeing it clearly on SUI. But currently they're paying longs. And so it works fantastically. It causes a short squeeze, like Mando says. I've been analyzing the liquidations, and we have a very probable short squeeze in our hands right now, guys. We've got 3.6% to go to 19 billion short liquidations, which will drive us to 70,000, where there's another 12 billion, which will drive us to 72, which is 23 billion. And that could propel us into a new all-time high.
Yeah.
So that's stimulated by funding rate. I believe the funding rate is how they stimulate that.
Yeah, maybe it's time to enter CTO here. I've been seeing a lot of rejection off of the 64K level basically since the 20th of September. It goes up, pierces it every now and again, but then it rejects back. Any view on the resistance right now? And oftentimes you have to tap that glass 3 to 5 times and then we break out. Maybe it's a setup for that, or are the markets being manipulated to keep a lid on things right now?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. I actually got a little bit rattled during last week when we had this big dump after everything looked really, really, really positive in the charts. Then came the world unrest. Powell was out talking, getting everyone to feel that the rate cuts will come slower, and Bitcoin really dumped big from a very, very positive setup. I felt it was quite unexpected. I felt a little bit rattled. But then I felt there was a light in the tunnel, because we had a very, very key level that has been key almost the whole of 2024, from end of February and all the way until now. And that was this level here at 60,800. First, it was support in February, March, April, May, until mid-May. An incredible number of times. I think it's like 10 times here. Then it came up, it came down, it was support again. Then it broke down, but then it was resistance. 10 times again it was resistance. It broke up, and I felt that perhaps this level could hold as support. And it so far has. So this level here, that has been a super key level the whole year, if that broke through now, that would not have been so great. But it didn't. It actually held, and it bounced exactly there. So I think right now, based on everything we know, guys, remember we've talked about this. We had the higher low, and we got the breakout, but it kind of failed. But based on everything we know now, I think this still looks great, despite the world unrest and despite all the issues that suddenly came up. The chart still looks fantastic. It retested support. The support held. And then exactly like you say, James, we are now up at a level where we have gotten resistance several times before, even back here in May. We got it in August. We got resistance here now in September. It broke through but came down again. Now we're there again. So absolutely, this area here has proven some resistance. If we can break through that and kind of clear these areas again confidently, I think we will move up here. And if we get the breakout here at 71,400, I think we can immediately shoot up to impossible levels. And I think it's a very exciting point of the market. I was worried last week. Today I feel great. I feel the market is looking great here.
It's very interesting. There's two things that are super interesting on this chart right now. Is if you go to the monthly candles, we have 7 months of flatness. which is bizarre, and that rarely happens. In fact, I think it's historical in a bull market for us to be technically flat for 7 months straight. It may not look flat here on the chart, but if you draw a line right through the middle, it's like a skewer with vegetables on it on the barbecue. It's flat, and that's never happened in history. The other thing that's interesting right now is the 200-day moving average is exactly at 64K. And maybe that's where people are worried. But there is a question I have nagging at me. The 200-day moving average in a bull market normally goes up. For the first time ever, it's peaking down, which could be a little bit bearish. Any thoughts, anybody, on that? Oh, short-term hold realized price, did I mention that, is 62.5? So we're above that, which is a very positive sign.
I mean, I have us bouncing off the 200-day moving average on the daily, which I watch. We've bounced off that. I don't know, yeah, exactly, but on a higher time frame, maybe.
Yeah, we're above it right now, but sometimes it can get rejected from it. And I'm wondering, is there any confluence there with other indicators?
I think this just shows kind of what's been happening. It's taken a long time to digest this sort of supply, and then we're coming out of it. Like, I agree that obviously you've seen a slowdown in this rally, which has caught a lot of people off guard, given what's happened in macro and what's happened in gold. Yeah. But for me, this has just been like the perfect setup on the back of that. I would say that if you get shaken out here and then we break down, we've had plenty of opportunities to break down, right? We had billions of Bitcoin come to market, billions of different altcoins come to market. Now we've gotten through that. We're on the other side. It would have to take something pretty cataclysmic, I think, for us to break down, I think, from here. Like we spoke about last show, like why we were lower, and then you had a bit of a flush because of what was going on in the Middle East. That would be the only real thing from now until year end, I think, could really derail us. The economic data last week was incredible. And we do seem to be now at a point where we're going to have a soft landing or a softish landing. So at the same time as China probably going to announce even more stimulus tomorrow. So it would take a lot for us to break down, I think, from here.
So, Amanda, you're saying Armageddon is priced in?
Yes.
I'm not saying Armageddon is priced in. I'm just saying that's the only thing. That's the only thing I can imagine that could take us out.
All right, let's talk about catalysts. I got two big catalysts this week. One we hashed to death about 2 weeks ago. FTX distro vote, coincidentally, is happening as we speak. Marty, you track this. You look at the legal documents in great detail. Much respect to you for that. Update us on FTX. When will the payout be? A lot of people are saying November, December, maybe even January. Give us the update. And we did see as well.
Feelings. I'm seeing a lot of mixed feelings on X today. People are now saying it could be much faster after this hearing today, depending on the hearing. I will keep touch. It's happening right now. It's 1 hour into the hearing. It was at 10 Eastern in New York. Coming out of this, there will be a roadmap forward, and I will report on it, but it could be much faster than we realize. I mean, I think people will start front running, you've seen today, but this could be a huge injection of liquidity, absolutely. 2% has been paid out. That's people that had claims that were tax dependent, so they had tax deadlines. And the last people to be paid will be government creditors, which is interesting. But the majority are retail, and we'll get a schedule coming out of this hearing. And I'll be the first to report.
It's interesting. I dabbled in a name about a week ago called Sol Strategies, tickers HODL.CN. It's also OTC Pink List here. And a week ago, their Bitcoin and Solana holdings equated to their market cap. But I didn't realize at the time that they had some Solana at FTX as well, which they got paid back. And you know about this too. Any updates? Does that mean the big institutions got paid back already?
Yeah, that's what I was saying early on, and I got my head chopped off. 100%. Institutional creditors have been paid already, a lot of them. I had 2 people personally I know that were paid. And I got so much flack from that. But it was only roughly 2%. It's a tiny portion. It's around, I think it was around $50 million. But still, it's quite a lot. And some of them have already committed it back into the assets they were in, which I think illustrates a pattern we might expect. I think people that lost assets in FTX are just going to re-enter those same assets.
And Marty, remember, when you're ruffling feathers, you're probably doing something right. So don't worry about the crypto Twitter toxicity. Now, this one is another big catalyst. Mando and CT, I don't know if you've been tracking this. I'm sure Marty has. Bitcoin and TradFi, this is the Custodia case. And basically, we've seen how the SEC plays favor amongst the big shops. But this is a scenario where there could be direct asset to the Federal Reserve. There's a thing called a master account, and that would allow things like Custodia Bank to process transactions directly to the Fed and also manage Bitcoin on behalf of other clients and banks and everything else. Who wants to take this one? Because if this goes through, this could be landmark for Bitcoin in the US. I don't think people realize how big this could possibly be. Thoughts, anybody?
Yeah, I mean, there's what, dozens, hundreds of banks in the US. If it does move down into the small to medium-sized banks, then particularly from a custody standpoint, it's what we just said before. Like, you'll start to see these banks realize they can make fees from this, probably even higher fees than they could with traditional style sorts of assets. And they'll offer these as products to anyone they do wealth management services for, or even just general financial planning for. So, yeah, I think you're going to start to see the tentacles of Bitcoin now enter pretty quickly into the US financial system. I think it will happen even quicker if Trump gets appointed, but I think we're setting up here that Bitcoin specifically is going to be very, very accepted.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the prediction I made the last DCA we did last year, right before the new year, that this year the banks will completely change their tune. They will go from Bitcoin is a scam to Bitcoin is the best thing since sliced bread, because now they have a part in the business model. They are selling it now through the ETFs and so on. And then there is the whole thing that follows from that with custodians and so on and so forth. So I think that's what we're seeing playing out now. And yeah, I guess how far will it go into, the Fed and so on? I don't know. I guess that could be partly a political decision. So like Mando said, perhaps the speed of something like that happening could be dependent on the election outcome. But I mean, the big bet a lot of us have done here is that, this thing with digital money is not a fad or it's not a scam. It's something that's highly useful, and eventually technology wins. The useful technology gets adopted, and then it will be adopted everywhere. But of course, timing matters. Will it happen next year, or will it happen in 10 years? That's the question. It's not a matter of whether if it will happen. It's so useful, and looking at how the world is going, a more modern gold seems very practical.
CTO, it's as if you're reading my mind. This dovetails perfectly into this chart as well. This is from Ray Dalio. This is the FIAT Lifecycle. And I think it was Bill Clinton's wife was on the road last week talking about how Bitcoin is a threat to the US dollar hegemony. And they're still on the talk track that Bitcoin is dangerous. And I thought that died a couple of years ago, or choke point 2.0. But this chart, everybody's worried about the BRICS conference coming up. Is it tomorrow or this week? Shout out to Chewy as well for this chart to remind me of it. This is quite profound. And Ray Dalio is a legend, one of the top hedge fund managers in the history of the planet. Anybody want to grab this? How fiat is in decline? Does BRICS have an impact now? Apparently, there are 130 countries signed up for BRICS, or at least interested in looking hard at it, because they're tired of dollar hegemony. And I'm not saying anything bad against the dollar, but fiat does decline over time. And the money printing in the US right now is startling. Who wants to grab this one by the horns?
I mean, I wouldn't want to compete with that chart. That's a brilliant chart. I mean, obviously, this is happening. You can't deny that this is happening. Now, the question is, perhaps the conventional dollar as we know it is declining, and there'll be a new digital dollar that is born. I think that's a possibility that people are overlooking. The stable coin is a potential revolution. Even if you look at the Custodia Bank thing, acceptance of Custodia Bank would imply stable coins would be, the stable coin Supreme Senate vote would probably be pushed forward, which we might see this year. If that gets passed, then there'll be a massive competitive rush for banks to adopt stablecoin. and Bitcoin is collateral. And I think what we see is the birth of a digital dollar. Now, can the digital dollar, become the new reserve world currency? Potentially. Is BRICS looking to make their own stable coin? 100%. So I think this is definitely going to happen. The resurgence of a new currency will be a digital currency. We don't know whether it'll be a digital dollar, i.e. backed by US debt, or whether it'll be a BRICS currency backed by BRICS debt, or gold. I mean, they're talking about gold. I don't know if you watch Peter DeOnja, one of my favorite podcasters. Peter DeOnja is just an excellent macro guy with a YouTube channel. I highly recommend you watching. He's been speaking about this all. He believes that if this blue thing touches the bottom, if the dollar declines in the next 10 years, it'll probably be a gold-backed currency. But if it declines in the next 15 years or to 20 years, it'll be a Bitcoin-backed currency. So he's already mapping that out. I think this is, you can't argue this. The current fiat system is dying.
Yeah, exactly.
And what will replace it will be a technology solution.
Exactly. Mando, you giggled when Marty said something there. You can't fight this chart.
I agree with this, but only to a certain extent. I don't think the dollar's dying that soon. I think it is obviously printing a lot, but I wouldn't say the BRICS are necessarily in the best opportunity to kind of overtake the dollar. Dollar still accounts for a huge amount of global trade and global transactions. And the way that the BRICS, they all have separate currencies, right? So they'd have to all agree on one unified currency. There has been some talk about, like what Marty said, that they may move to like a dollar-backed currency. But I don't know. I still think a lot of those BRICS nations have got big issues, particularly China at the moment. And I wouldn't necessarily be jumping from the US to what's going on in any of those countries. Maybe India's having a great resurgence at the moment, but China and Russia are going through a lot of issues. South Africa is growing, but I wouldn't say it's at the scale to kind of take on the US. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's the death of the dollar. I think crypto has an interesting position here, because in some way Bitcoin can replace this, and will be a great investment. I'm not saying it won't be a great investment during this period, but I also think it could prolong the strength of the dollar by what Marty said in terms of stable coins proliferating in a very, very big way. And I think if the US is smart, they'll see that, and they'll push crypto far, far more than they have been in the past, so that the dollar actually is seen as a kind of overtake some of these domestic policies which are starting to move away from it. Like if let's say these BRICS nations say, hey, we can't use the dollar anymore, but you still allow all their country to access stable coins, you kind of have dollar power there, even if you don't like it. And a lot of the different BRICS nations are very reliant on stable coins. Russia, for example, is accepting USDT the other week, right? So I think I wouldn't say it's the death of the dollar just yet.
Oh no, and things will happen gradually, but we do have things like OPEC trying to do trade deals in non-dollar terms right now. We have China dictating terms, China ditching their treasuries, etc. So there are some subtle changes happening behind the scenes. We're not saying the dollar's going to die. So Ray Dalio, he's thinking in terms of 250 years, and the average life of a fiat is 70 years. And there will be some changes. But the point is, Bitcoin will grow as we go forward from here. The other story from last week.
Can I just comment one thing? Because I think Ray Dalio has one point here. I think that it's exactly what Mando said. Nothing is going to happen tomorrow here. But if looking over like a 50-year period, there is no doubt that Asia is going like this, while the whole West, which includes US and even more so Europe, is kind of going in this direction as percentage of the world economy. That's undeniable if looking at over multi-decade horizon. And I don't see anything that suggests that that's changing anytime soon. You know, if you go basically anywhere in Europe, it's becoming more and more of a museum country. Like you go, rich Asian tourists go there to look at great things done in the past, and selling, coffee to those tourists and the restaurants. But it's not less innovation happening than if you look 50 or 100 years back. While in many countries in Asia, there is an enormous power of innovation. People are like young, they're forward looking, and they are really growing. There's like you go to one place, it was a swamp. You come back 5 years later, there's like a mega city there, and that's undeniable. And that's I think what he identified here, that the West as a whole, with the US dollar as the currency, perhaps is going to get challenged over the next 50 years in terms of dominance. And then what will it be challenged by? Will it be challenged by the yen, or will it be challenged by some BRICS currency, or is it like a digital global currency that will dominate? We don't know, right? But I think that the US dominated world that we've seen, that it could get challenged over the next couple of decades. I agree 100% with that. I think that will happen.
And to dovetail on what you said there, CTO, is Scott Galloway says the US is where you go to make money and Europe is where you go to spend it, which I thought was funny. The big story from last week that had everybody very afraid is the HBO documentary and the doxing of who Satoshi Nakamoto is. And Polymarket odds, if anybody can pull them up live, is about 50 to 60%. This guy called Len Sussman. I looked into his background and everything else, and he kind of does fit the bill. Any thoughts on this? And unfortunately, Len is no longer with us, just like Hal Finney. May they both rest in peace. They're both instrumental in what Bitcoin is in so many ways. We still have some great players out there like Adam Back, etc. But a lot of people are afraid, oh my God, if they disclose who this is, and if it's somebody we don't like, it could tank the price of Bitcoin. Over to you, Mando.
These moved a lot. So if you bring up the live Polymarket odds right now, Len is ahead, but
can you share
it's only 23%. It's moved very, very aggressively in the other way. Let me just bring it up. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I think it's basically close to evens. No. So Len is 23%, Adam Back is 14%, Nick Szabo is 14% as well. Yeah. I always thought it was Adam Back, but there's a case for it to be Len Sussman too. I saw a bunch of different things about him. There was always this expectation that Satoshi was based in Europe, just because of one post he made. The time zone that he referred to would have only made sense if he was in Europe, but people suspected he was maybe an American living in Europe at the time, of which Len was doing some sort of doctoral thesis at a university in Europe at the time. So that may fit. He also was basically friends and wrote potentially even papers with a number of different people in the of the like old cypherpunks. So he kind of knew all of these characters that we see on the screen right now. And the way that the Bitcoin white paper was written in a type form which is very similar to how you'd write a academic paper, and Len has that sort of background. That being said, he was very close with his wife, and his wife never said that he never knew that Len was Satoshi, or at least is saying that she never knew that Len was Satoshi. And she was a hacker herself, so she was in those circles. And then secondly, after it came out, there's a lot of posts by Len on X basically saying that he thinks Bitcoin's a scam, that basically pointing to all these security errors. And it's just difficult to work out. Like, it kind of goes beyond just regular criticism of Bitcoin. It's almost like quite vitriol. So people are like, oh, it's kind of a strange thing for him, even if he did create it, to be so vitriolic against Bitcoin. So they might come out and say it's him.
Distraction strategy, though. If you have something and you want to kick people off the scent, that's exactly what you do.
That's the thing. People are debating that. Like, what do you do in that scenario? Do you aggressively come out against it? Do you kind of come out slightly for it, or do you just say nothing? He came out aggressively against it, but he also took it to a level where he really criticized the base principles of Bitcoin in some of these posts. So it's almost like it was almost malicious. So it's kind of a strange one if it's him.
So we got two technologists on the line. The question I've always had since 2017 is, this is a seminal piece of work. It's perfect. It's genius. It's balanced. Is it possible for one technologist to create it? Or does it take many, a team? CTO.
I mean, the one key thing to understand is that it wasn't created out of isolation. There was like 30 years of work before Bitcoin. So I think that if that hadn't been done, this wouldn't be possible by one or many people. So it was really building on a lot of building blocks that were not new. It's just that no one had quite been able to put them together like this to kind of solve the game theory problem at the same time as applying all the other great ideas. So I think it was like a brilliant idea. The implementation wasn't that difficult. It's definitely possible to write by one person, though it kind of feels like there was, to me, it feels like there were several people involved at different points of time. And that's maybe why it's been so difficult to lock down who it was. I personally think that Hal Finney was at least involved. And but perhaps there were several people. That I think makes sense.
Exactly. Well, this is super interesting. Let's talk about the next topic. Again, we're moving fast. This has been nothing short of phenomenal, and it's really getting attention. Now, this also could be construed as kind of a catalyst. And Marty tweeted something yesterday. I've been watching MetaPlanet and all the other companies that are doing following the MicroStrategy playbook. And last night I tweeted this, basically, imagine when enterprises wake up to the fact that cash is trash and discover the infinite money glitch, that Bitcoin, aka borrowing dollars at close to 0% rate and buying Bitcoin and just sitting there. The infinite money glitch. Michael Saylor nailed it. And Marty mentioned MetaPlanet bought another $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. Remember, a billion yen worth of Bitcoin, sorry, which isn't very much, but it is substantial. And now there are many companies, I know for a fact, they're having board meetings now saying, shall we do this with at least 10, 15% of our cash balance, our melting ice cube on the balance sheet? What happens if even a tiny percentage of enterprises go down this path? That kicks off as a massive catalyst. Marty, thoughts on MetaPlanet, the infinite money glitch, Saylor, MicroStrategy, and MicroStrategy has been absolutely on fire over the summer. It's been defying everything, Bitcoin, miners, you name it. It actually hit 190 today, a minute ago. So
yeah, I think bonkers. As I say, I think price makes narrative, and like we see when Bitcoin starts pumping like this, there's more board meetings than ever before. When the price pumps, everyone goes, wow, it must be true. When the price goes down, everyone says, yeah, it's probably false. But I think at the end of the day, it's an arms race. And we saw Michael Saylor's presentation, keynote speech at the Bitcoin conference, literally hand-picked slides at the BlackRock presentation. They've taken MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor's vision, and they are selling it to their clients. Literally, this is it, and it's getting manifested. And I think the competitive nature and gamification of this arms race is going to, slowly at first and then parabolic. And as the price goes up now, it's a race. They have to do it. They can't miss out. The opportunity for a collapse in Bitcoin is done. Armageddon is priced in. So, yeah, I think we're watching it in real time. It's October 7th. I think by the end of the year, you saw Michael Saylor's new prediction, 350,000 by the end of this year.
Yep.
It's going to happen.
CTO, can you pull up a chart of MicroStrategy divided by Bitcoin for us in a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to show the MicroStrategy chart first, if I may, because it's happening today in real time here. I had the next breakout level for MicroStrategy at 182. I can't remember, James. You had 181, I think, and it's breaking out today. So that's been a key event that I've been watching, and it seems to be happening if the candle closed here. So that is fantastic news, and we can definitely overlay it with Bitcoin. So we can do that. And
I always look at the MicroStrategy divided by Bitcoin chart, and you see the complete outperformance. In fact, if you go back to November 2023, MicroStrategy and Solana have performed the same. And Solana has completely outperformed Bitcoin by 600%. And nobody can rationalize that in their heads. it's obscene. So
Okay, I have to make another chart with that. But
don't worry about it. But there's other stuff that's happening too, which is kind of this one. We have now TradFi sees MicroStrategy as a notable gainer. It's getting attention. Marty, USA, what is it? Price makes narrative. MicroStrategy last Friday up $13, 8%, while Bitcoin went up 1.4%. TradFi is scratching the head. What the hell is going on? Mando, do you track this stuff? What do you think? Like, also the 10-year Treasury went back above 4%, which is a bit of a concern. We can touch on too. Mando, thoughts on this money glitch?
Yeah, well, I think this has basically been started by that jobs figure which came out on Friday, which pointed to stronger economic growth essentially, and probably cements the idea that we're not going to have, at least on paper, a recession by how they measure it. So money just started flowing back in. And this is during an easing cycle as well. So we had this elusive soft landing that like no other Fed has been able to achieve. So money just started flowing back in. And this is a time also where global liquidity is just going higher. It's being printed out of China. We probably will hear about tomorrow about even more stimulus that's going to happen there. They may go full-blown QE. So I think people are just getting risk on for all this sort of stuff. The thing that obviously went a little bit lower was bonds. So the 10-year yield went back up to 4%. That's something to watch. Like if the dollar starts to see a lot of strength again, you could see Bitcoin head a little bit lower. But I think we're in a good spot for global markets. This is what I was saying earlier in the show.
Yeah.
If Bitcoin can't rally here, or it can't go towards all-time highs, then we've got a real problem. Like we've got money coming in from FTX, billions of it. We've got money coming in from institutions. We've got money printing going on, and we've got macro looking like it's going to keep on going higher, particularly on narratives which would support crypto, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah,
So
very, very good point. Actually, one thing I'll dovetail to in what you just said regarding China, I'll show you in a second, but I just want to mention as well, South Korea is also buying MicroStrategy, which is very bizarre. So it's become a proxy for Bitcoin. And it's much easier to buy a US stock than it is for many around the world to buy Bitcoin. That's why it is the on-ramp. And people thought, I remember back in December last year and January this year, people thought, oh, the ETFs will kill MicroStrategy. It's like, nope, not at all. In fact, let's talk about this one too. You mentioned China, and there's apparently, this is kind of very interesting as well. Some people believe this will be to escape deflation and for a rally to be sustained, China M1 has to overtake M2. And for that to happen, China will need to unleash a historic credit impulse, record new debt creation, launch QE, and cause a global inflation shockwave. Shout out to Goldman for this one. This is big. And Mando, any macro thoughts on this? Obviously, M1, M2, you can see the disjoint here. Do you believe this will be a massive historic credit impulse? I think everybody knows it's going to be, but you're muted.
We'll know at 7 p.m. tonight. That's when the meeting is in Beijing, the press conference.
Yeah. They're already bailing out the real estate market right now, at least in terms of regulation. They're giving 140 billion to the banks, and it seems like they're going to announce QE. So I think we're going to see this figure is probably one of the most important figures in global finance at the moment. Like we're going to see a huge amount of QE come out of China, and China's a much bigger share of the global economy than it used to be.
Oh yeah.
You know, like 15, 20 years ago when we had the US do QE, if China had done it at the same time, yeah, it would have been a big deal, but it's nowhere near as big a deal as it is right now. Like China assets account for a much larger share of global GDP, and particularly things like their property market is a huge multi-trillion-dollar market. So if you start to see that inflate again, yeah, this could be very, very big, very big for global market conditions.
In fact, GDP of China and US are almost equating right now. And as CTO said a few minutes ago, you know, West is going like this and Asia is going like this. So it's everything will be determined by these markets real soon. And then this one we missed. Let's switch gears. A lot of people want to hear about altcoins and crypto and even meme coins. We'll put Mando on the spot for that too. But Sui is in the top 20. Marty, talk to us about Sui and the squeeze and the amount of action here, and maybe some Aptos too, because that's been a fast follower as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been telling people to buy Sui under $2, so that discount window to me is closed at 209 right now. That doesn't mean you shouldn't buy, but I think the real discount is over. I don't think it's going to head back under 2 much longer or ever again. Yes, Aptos, the other move player, has kept up, but it's kind of fallen back a little bit now. It's at 4.3 billion. Sui's at 5.8. The more interesting thing to me is that Sui is now just about to pass Polkadot, which I think is correct. It is a superior technology, and Polkadot always had that vision to be the institutional app building blockchain, which Sui really is. So that's going to be a pivotal point. I think a lot of money, as I said in the last show last week, a lot of the money flowing into Sui in the rotation was coming from DOT, and you can see that to be true now. There's only 500,000 now, 500 million between them, and closing fast. And then Near is a great Gen 3 platform. I hold some Near. They're next after DOT. They actually just passed DOT. But then it gets interesting. Then we start looking at Chainlink and some of these, what I call, ghost projects. I think Chainlink is a great technology, but I don't know why it's 7 billion when it's not even it's just an ERC20 token. And then Avalanche, and then Cardano. I think Sui will pass Cardano into the top 10. That's my prediction.
Yeah, Marty, I know you're a very big fan of Cardano and you follow it very closely and you have a lot of
I
friends
love
in that
Cardano.
army.
I'm a huge fan. I have Cardano plates on my car.
But if Sui hits the Cardano market cap today, that's a $5 token.
Oh, absolutely. I think Sui is a $10 token. So $5 in the short term. Yes.
Okay. And what would you do what are you going to do with your big bags of Cardano right now?
I don't know. I think might give them to charity or send them back to Charles.
Okay.
Ask for a refund.
You wouldn't flop it into Sui or another token right now, would you?
What I'm going to do first is I'm just going to use Cardano to send some money to you, and then the TPS will go for 1.3 to at least 2.
Okay, we're a little bit sassy right now because we received a lot of hate from the Cardano army, so we're just sharing facts. This is all about technology and alpha. We don't care about religions or cults or anything like that. We chase what's going to move.
I just want to make a statement. Look, if I watch technology, I'm watching Cardano, I watch their GitHub, I watch their development progress. If Cardano comes out with some innovation or some new UI or some new use case, or actually delivers 5,000 TPS as they've promised, I will change my mind and I might enter Cardano. But at this point, I don't see anything and I'm waiting. So let's wait patiently. We've been waiting for what, 5 years? So we might as well wait another year. But at this point, Sui is delivering every day and only getting stronger. So I think Sui should take the place of Cardano, and then Cardano should deliver something special. And then we'll talk about it again. But I only invest in companies that have deliverables. I don't invest in white papers or words. Go ahead.
This is interesting. There's a lot of comments in the chat all for the last 40 minutes about Bozo and meme coins, and people want to hear what you think. I'm going to put Mando on the spot first and then CTO later about Bozo. But Mando, Sol meme coins crack $10 billion in market cap. It's like a resurgence again. People want to know what's going on.
Yeah, this has been this has been brewing for a while, right? Like meme coins and AI coins have been the two strongest sectors for the last few weeks, particularly over the last few days, though. So what you've actually seen here, which is a little bit interesting, like WIF, for example, which is the biggest coin, that hit a high of about $4.7, I think, earlier this year. Pepe similarly was up a lot higher than that. So was Bonk. So all the major coins, all the top coins are actually still down. They're down about 40%, 30 to 40% from their highs earlier this year. What you've seen is actually the second tier of, they call them cult meme coins. A lot of it's been brought back to a meme coin trader in the space called Murad, who's like an ex-fund manager who's gone into memes. But this second tier of meme coins have absolutely flown. Popcat's one of the biggest ones. It's up about 40% on the week. It's up to 1.4 billion. But there's a number of different like mid-tier Solana meme coins and on ETH as well, which have absolutely skyrocketed in the last week or so. We're talking about like 10x for some of them in the space of a very, very short time frame. So this idea that meme coin dominance would go down didn't really last that long. But what you have seen is because Pump.Fund's pushing out so many different coins, and the idea of creating coins has become a lot easier, you're getting like a more even playing field, I would say, where like not all a few cycles ago, the money would mainly flow into Doge and SHIB, right? Now money was flowing into Pepe and WIF, let's say, but this time, although those are up, WIF is having a good day, so is Pepe. What you've really seen is some of these mid-tier ones have gone absolutely crazy. So people, let's say in the meme coin trenches, have done well, particularly over the last week.
Yeah, there's one called Moodang, which is a hippo or something, and I actually know a restaurant.
Yeah.
I know a restaurant called Moodang, and I was like, when I first heard about it, I thought, did the restaurant launch a coin? It's a tiny little restaurant, Indonesian or Thai or something. I can't remember what it is. CTO, let's talk about allocations and memes. And I know you've been dabbling in a thing called, the audience says here, I forget the name already, but you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously Mando is the meme coin mastermind here, but if I can just show a few charts, I'll just start by recapping a little bit what we talked about before, because I'm also not a Cardano hater or something, but the setup with Sui, when Marty brought it up here, it looked something like this. We had like a clear breakout formation, and in a project that's actually doing something, okay, then I'm interested. It looks great. And it's continued up from there. And there's quite many of those setups now. We have a lot of coins that kind of look similar. Tau was another one we talked about here, I believe a couple of weeks ago. Also had a setup like this. You guys mentioning APT now. It's been in a downtrend, starting to turn up, has some, turning resistance into support and so on. That's interesting. Then I'm interested. But guys, the other chart looks like this, and okay, then something needs to change before I'm interested.
Yeah, so CTO, pull up Sol ADA. Sol ADA is really the best thing to look at as well. Just look at Sol ADA.
I mean, it's gonna because one has gone down, one has gone up. So I mean, I agree. I just wanted to show that I'm not hating on any particular thing. If this turns around, they came up with something great. I'm very.
So how many times has it tested that support there? Look at that. It's tested that support 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. That's going to break.
Exactly. So if this breaks here, because then I think you how you do it, but this isn't looking great here actually. So yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. But now you wanted to see this one, so I think a lot of you guys asked about this chart, and I think what's positive here is that a lot of the meme coins, they kind of looked like this, and then they looked like this, and then it dies over here. It wasn't intentional to draw some life there. Many look like this, right? And this one hasn't. It's moved up. It kind of had some during the whole market downturn here during the summer. Turned down, but it climbed back over the same support. It looked like it had an ascending triangle, looked like poised for breakout. It didn't. It retraced, but now it's climbing back up again. So I think that charts like this looks pretty good. So you never know or at least I don't know. I don't know which meme coin is going to pump tomorrow, what's going to happen. But just looking at the charts, this looks pretty good. Full of life, not a dead.
I got two questions for the team here, because a lot of questions are coming into me about allocations. I stress two things. So first of all, I believe we are more than halfway through the bull run. And if something hasn't performed like this at this stage of the game, it's toast. And that's based on history. If there's no sign of life halfway through the bull run, it's dead, or as I call it, a zombie. The second big issue is I also stress allocations matter. Very important. I see a lot of talk here of people YOLOing into things like memes, but I'd like to hear from the community, you guys, how allocations matter. I don't want people I talk about risk curves and risk reward and allocations. They are very risky. I don't touch meme coins. I do own, in full disclosure, some Bonk because it came on a Solana phone. And I didn't sell it. I still have it. But Mando, talk to us about risk and allocations and memes and advice to the community here. Don't YOLO into memes hard. Maybe dabble. but be careful.
I mean, I YOLO into memes all over the time. Like, I'm involved in it. I'm in the trenches, so to speak. That being said, like, I said on here, like, I moved majority of my position in crypto was in JLP. I moved it into Bitcoin throughout September. That's been the majority of my crypto exposure is just in Bitcoin right now. I bought some Tau last week just because I like the narrative based on AI. I personally, honestly, I thought that meme coins were still going to have a tough time because those major meme coins I didn't see putting in new all-time highs. So what did catch me off guard slightly here is that those second tier of meme coins have all absolutely ripped, even though and hit all-time highs, easily above all-time highs for most of them, while the major meme coins actually have kind of hanging out. Like Doge has not had a good cycle. SHIB has not had a good cycle. Pepe and WIF put in much higher highs earlier this year. So this actually did catch me out. Like, I didn't have a massive portfolio in some of these mid-tier meme coins. I think what this does tell you is that the life cycle of memes is getting even shorter than it ever was before. The idea that you can just hold something and you stop and forget it, that's very dangerous.
What is that life cycle? Is it 3 months, 6 months, 9 months?
Well, Pepe is a year and a half old. It's very, very rare in the past for like meme coins to last more than that. You have to pick very, very good meme coins. Now on Solana, it felt like, because of Pump.Fun, I think it was something like 120,000 Solana coins were made in the last week. All right, that tells you how many new meme coins are being made. Right, it's like maybe even 150,000. It's roughly around 12 to 15,000 a day at the moment, which is being created. So if you're going to hold something right now, you've got to appreciate that a very, very, very small amount, smaller than ever previously in terms of memes, will survive, and that also it's very easy for somebody to buy into a new meme. You know, like, even if it does really, really well, it's very easy for you to buy into a new meme. So I think what you've seen is the second tier, particularly around this trader Murad, are probably going to do well. But I would be very wary of when they put in their cycle high, they may not hit it again because people will just move on next cycle to the next set of memes.
Okay, there's one thing. This kind of dovetails into. We've got 3 topics left. I want to thank everybody for coming. We're going to try to keep this to an hour, so we're going to try bang out 3 topics in a very few minutes. But don't forget, Mando Minutes is below. Follow all their channels. Marty Party is there as well. He's his own investing club, and he's on Twitter. And CTO Larson, of course, websites, indicators, channels, everything as well. So follow everybody. All the links are below. I do want to stress one thing, and a lot of people are concerned. Either they're late to the party, they're sitting on cash, etc. CTO, if you had some cash and we are over halfway through the bull run, what would your investment strategy be for this stage? Would it be to look at those altcoins that are looking to break out against Bitcoin, or something else?
I think there will always be new opportunities. I think the key is to have a plan ahead of time, because otherwise you will no doubt buy at like the peak of every local pump, and then it's going to retrace, and you're going to panic, and you're going to sell on the dump, and then it's going to pump again, and it goes even higher, you're going to buy, and you're going to get chopped up the whole time. It's better to have a strategy nicely and calmly, what to do with the money. And exactly what to do, of course, is impossible to say because it depends on your personal situation and everything. But make a plan. Like, if it goes to support, I'm going to buy at support. If it breaks out, I'm going to buy the breakout. Like, make a plan and then hope for it to back down to your support level, or hope for the breakout. And then if it happens, take action. And if it doesn't, and the thing is that you don't need to make the money on one particular coin. It doesn't have to be that I have to make the money on this altcoin. No, it doesn't. You know, the money looks the same in the end. So look for a setup, see if it materializes. Okay, then you take the entry. If it never happens, if it never turns around, opportunity never comes, okay, you don't invest in that altcoin then you invest in the other one where the opportunity actually comes. So I think that the key thing here is to make a nice and calm plan in a mindset of control, and then just execute on the plan. Have a plan, follow the plan. Those are the 2 steps. And then for this area, I think that what the guy that you overheard, Mando, at the restaurant or something, it was a pretty good strategy to have some diversification, maybe some stocks, some digital assets, perhaps some real estate. Don't know. No, depends if it's in the right place or not, because the world is changing. And maybe I bought, for example, the breakout in gold for at 2000 with a leveraged entry. It felt very boring then. It doesn't feel so boring now. Now I can say. So I mean, look for opportunities, have some diversification, have a plan, and follow it. That
Cool, Marty, I know you and I are perping like madmen, and it's good. What are your strategies for this stage of the bull?
I mean, I tell people, the best way to make money in trading is just to buy every discount. So find highly adopted assets, especially in blockchain. You want to look for adopted networks. Adoption means lots of users, lots of TPS, lots of activity, lots of deliverables. So let's just say Solana and Sui pretty much are the leaders. So buy every discount. Now learn how to recognize discounts. So learn some basic TA skills. Learn about liquidation levels, learn about Wyckoffs. There's many ways to do this, but buy every discount. Don't buy tops, buy discounts, and be patient. Patience is the hardest thing to learn and the most important thing. And I think if you keep doing that, you're going to be fine. If you must understand, crypto is not a get rich quick scheme. It's in fact a get poor fast scheme if you do it incorrectly. So, you want to start buying discounts with the aim to start to look at selling at the top of the bull run, which could be a year's time, it could be 6 months' time. And we've also got an election. So what you could do is sit on your hands and wait for a capitulation event, around bad news. And that's fine. But I think that Armageddon is now priced in. So I don't think that's going to happen. The other thing you can do, you can learn to
Marty,
low leverage goods.
You mentioned something. You mentioned something two things very important. One is patience, and the other one is what I call don't panic, get rich slowly. There are people that feel the sense of, oh my goodness, I have to make a lot of money fast. If you do that, you will blow yourself up. So everybody be patient, get rich slowly, not fast. So two big nuggets there you just touched on.
And I mean, learn to use low leverage perpetuals, low leverage, 1.5 to 2x leverage. Basically, you can catch up. Basically, what that means is the price of the asset has to drop significantly, almost an Armageddon event for you to get liquidated. Yes, you're going to sit in the red if we do come down, 20%, but that's fine. If your long-term plan is a year or two, low-level perpetuals are very great. On-chain DeFi, low-leverage perpetuals.
Okay, Amanda, we know you're doing a little YOLO into memes, but that's only for a small portion of your bag. What is your halfway through the bull market strategy right now? I know you left JLP, moved into Bitcoin and some other things.
I mean, at times meme coins have been the majority of my portfolio, but not right now. Probably this time last year, like I was very, very big into a number of different meme coins. But now, I've been a bit more defensive, obviously defensive by just being all in on Bitcoin. Like what you said there was really interesting, because Bitcoin dominance has actually gone up over the last week. It hit 58.2%. If your meme coin has not rallied in the last week, just take note. Like really, really take note, because there is an altcoin season happening right now, and a lot of people are calling for it. But it's only select meme coins. Sui, been a great call. Been one of the most obvious trades of this this altcoin cycle. Things like Tau, some specific DeFi coins like Aave. It's been a very narrow group. If your meme coin has not rallied, if your altcoin has not rallied in the last week, I mean, really, really consider cutting it, because again, there is a little bit of an altcoin season happening, and you're seeing the ones that will rally. If Bitcoin goes to all-time highs, I can tell you the coins that will rally. And I can tell you the coins that won't right now.
I want to put a red line under what Amanda just said. It's so important. That means if it hasn't rallied in the last week, it's a zombie. It's probably not going to rally, and you should not be sitting on it. So important. Thank you for sharing that, Mando. Two very last quick stories. See what you guys think of this. Dubai has become a no-shill zone. Value-added tax. People aren't allowed to talk about pump or whatever. Considering a lot of the crypto bros and ladies are all in Dubai right now. Influencers promoting virtual assets must adhere to very strong rules, just like advertisers. I thought this is pretty profound and logical. People need to portray things in a very true and honest manner with data. Thoughts, quick fire round. Yes, no, good, bad. Will this infect the rest of the world?
I read the text before here after this, and I think it's fantastic. I feel, because honestly, I've been a little bit upset. If you're trying to do things ethically, trying to, play things well, and then there's other people who have, bought in at very low prices, at kind of insider purchases, and then they, pump up those things and then sell it at a profit and repeat, rinse and repeat. It feels a little bit not fair playing field, or how I should say. I love this. I think it was fantastic, and it was high fines. It was like up to 10 million dirham.
Marty, you think the crypto bros will leave Dubai now because of this?
I don't know. I mean, I still think do your own research is better. I think if people can educate themselves and make their own decisions is better. Following influencers or following anyone without looking into it yourself, I think is always going to lead to disaster. So I think this is sort of it's an interesting take. But more people I know are moving to Dubai than ever in crypto. Most of the South Africans have moved to Dubai. So I don't think it's going to affect Dubai. We also got today news that a large Saudi Arabian clerk has just announced Bitcoin acceptable under Islamic law. That is massive. If you follow the news, this Salifa cleric issuing this fatwa could be a massive bullish move for Bitcoin and the UAE. So things like that are changing. But as far as representation, I mean, I think it's important. If you're getting paid a lot of money I remain unbiased. I always have.
Okay, you mentioned something huge. You mentioned something huge there. The conspiracy theorist inside of me believes maybe there is a sovereign wealth stacking behind the scenes, and they had to enforce some religious fatwa law change for Bitcoin. Possible, Mando? Yeah.
That's what I think.
Maybe. I mean, this has been a big debate in Islamic finance for a long time, like whether Bitcoin. But this, I've heard a bunch of different rulings about this before, even in Saudi Arabia. So maybe it has to be a gradual process. But I do think all these countries are going to try and move into it, particularly for like mining. So it has to be accepted. I think it's good for Dubai. Dubai's crypto scene needs to be cleaned up, in my opinion. You go out there and there's some legit projects, but there's also some like very non-legit crypto things going on, or people who are non-legit. The other side of Dubai is very strict on many other things in with regards to crime. So it's always been a little bit of a strange one. I think it's because they have a no extradition treaty as well with the US that you end up often attracting not the best quality of
savory characters. Excellent. And final story: Zuckerberg is now number 2 in terms of richest people on the planet after Elon Musk. He just eclipsed Jeff Bezos. This shows you, when you look at the people behind these companies, this is why you get involved in disruption. You've got Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, the net worth gain for Meta. And I sold Meta. I cleaned shop. I did a trade, made a lot of money, got in at $90. Last time it fell down there. And I did sell a bit too early, but there's no harm in taking profits. But I can't remember Zuck is now worth $210 billion. He became $83 billion richer in 9 months. Less than 9 months. 8 months. It's insane. Any thoughts on this, you guys? Final question, final topic out of 17 topics.
Well, who do you think it's going to be?
This is good for Sui.
Who do you think it's going to be? Next year? You think it's going to be Elon still?
I think post-election, if Trump wins, Tesla is going to do a 2x.
That's what everyone's saying, right? Like Elon's net worth is now very much tied to Trump. Like he's got a very big Trump trade on. If Trump wins, I think Elon's going to really pull away there.
Yeah, I'm going to say something very profound as well. And it's very sad because of the natural disasters we've had in the United States. When first thing to get knocked out is communications. When there are no comms, people die. It's that simple. And Starlink has the solution to these disasters. And there's another big hurricane coming on its way. It's supposed to be bigger than the last one to hit Florida. So this Starlink itself, SpaceX, some people say it could be worth more than Tesla. It's a global communications platform. So his net worth is only going to go up. With that, everybody, I want to remind everyone one more time, follow Mando, Marty, CTO. All the links are below. You're probably watching on their channels anyway. If you follow them. Last thoughts, we wrap up. Final closing sentence from each of you, starting with Mando. Bullish,
I think
bearish?
we're going to all-time highs, guys. I really do.
I like
Before the
doing
election, I
predictions
think
for
we'll
next week.
hit-
Let's predict.
yeah.
What's your prediction for next week, guys? Next week's show. What's Bitcoin going to be at?
I just think before the election, we'll hit all-time. We'll be at that 71, 72 area. That's just where I think
That's
we'll be.
28
I've said
days,
this, saying
right?
it for
28
weeks.
days to election. It's only 28 days to election.
Yeah, we need to break through 66K. Once that happens, we hit 70K. But the problem is the resistance. The resistance need to be destroyed. We need somebody to go in and buy big. We need the ETFs to start buying. And then we're going to 70K. CTO, thoughts?
I'm bullish. That's my closing thoughts. The only thing that I will watch a little bit is the macro factors like the yields and the EXY and so on. We didn't get time to talk about that today, but that's the only little bit question mark. But the Bitcoin chart looks good.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you as well to everybody in the audience, Sean Donnelly and T&D Tesla and all the mods and keeping us all safe and secure. Be in touch with you guys every single day through our little calm channel. Bring out that pump. And we have to buy Marty a better pump. It's a bit small. Is that for balloons?
I have this sad. I have this one which is so small and it's red. It's for like footballs, but you can bump a football and you can go and win the World Cup with it. So that's my only excuse. It's the only one I have here. I'm sorry, guys.
All right.
My prediction for next
evening.
week will be 71,481.
No, that's hyper bullish. Okay. On that positive note, I'll throw a little bit of cold water on that one. But thank you all for coming. Have a great week. I'll see you all Monday. Ciao.
Bye, guys.
Monday,
Thanks for joining. That was great.